Well, abating now, the storm, which has swept the length and breadth of the country, but for hundreds of families across central New Zealand, the big clean-up is underway. Some people don't know when they're going to be getting back into their homes. For the people in Kilburnie and Wellington, it's all very unpleasant, not just the rain and the great gusting winds and the floodings, but raw sewage as well. Who needs it? Katrina and Tony Warren and their 15-month-old baby Danielle were evacuated at 3:30 this morning, middle of the night, after water and raw sewage started to come into their home. They're still not able to move back into their house, and they are Katrina and Tony Warren, and they are with us live from Kilburnie. Good evening, both of you.
Hi. Good evening, Paul.
So what was your reaction when you're told to evacuate early this morning?
It was fairly frightening, mate, seeing all that water come through the doors and up around the furniture.
Very fast.
Yeah.
Did it wake you up? Did the storm keep you awake, or?
No, I woke up at about 3 hearing the rushing noise of water, and it sort of took me a while to sort of sit up and have a look because I knew what was going on. But once we were up there, we were out of there.
Brand new house too.
Yeah, 13 weeks old.
Very disappointing, mate.
And I bet it's heartbreaking.
Yeah.
Yeah. Very.
Yep, sure is.
And you've been building it?
Took 7 months to build, a year in the council, 7 months to build, 13 weeks we're in there, and then we're washed out.
Of course, for the previous 2 years, you've both been living with your mum and dad, Katrina.
No, with Anthony's
With
mum.
mine. Very, very testing, but I'm pleased that they put us up and done all this for us. Yeah.
So 13 weeks after they get rid of you, there you go back.
Sorry?
What's that?
So 13 weeks out of there, you're back again.
That's right. She thought she'd got rid of us, but no.
Now, you went back to the house today, and while you tell me about this, I've got some pictures of you going back in through the water. We can see some of the damage. We can see some, look at that, what you're dealing with there. What did you find inside when you went back in?
A great mess. A great mess.
Nice legs, eh? You like the legs, Paul?
May I say, I was about to compliment you on those legs.
Oh, thanks very much, mate.
Very good, shapely leg. Katrina's very lucky. Anyway, so where are we now? You're waiting in the water. The kitchen and bathroom, Katrina, they're all right, I understand.
Yes, they are. They're above the stairs, so the water didn't get that high.
What about cupboards and stuff like that, though?
What was that, sorry?
The cupboards are all right. Everything's up high. But there's still a hell of a mess inside.
All the shoes are floating and everything's floating.
Your clothes, have you lost all your clothes?
A lot of them, yeah.
Yeah.
A lot of babies' things. All her drawers and things were covered in water.
Well, of course, this is another thing. Danielle wouldn't take too kindly to being uplifted at 3:30 in the morning.
Definitely not.
Definitely not, mate.
Definitely not. Especially being carried out by a stranger.
Oh, no, that's right.
That's right.
Did she settle down when you went back to your mum's, Tony?
Sorry, Paul?
Did she settle down, Danielle, when you...
No, she didn't. She didn't, but the fire brigade was excellent. They're really a big help.
And so you two have had a fairly sleepless sort of a night, I guess. It's a long day it's been too, I suppose.
Been a very long day.
When are you going to be able to get back in?
Very soon, I hope. If everyone gets on with their job, we'll get in as soon as we can.
You got the insurance?
Yep.
Definitely.
Yep.
All paid up?
But if you can let us know what we can claim for, I'd appreciate that.
I'd go and throw a few things in the water. Go and throw those old pair of shorts in the water.
Me shorts?
What about the legs, Paul?
Very good legs, Katrina, as I said, and I'm sure, if I may say so, yours are very fine too. Katrina and Tony Warren, thank you very much indeed, and bad news, and I hope you get back in the house soon.
Thanks.
Well, thank you, Paul.
Thank you.
Goodbye now.
Good night.
The military. Now we move to the military. The military in the firing line again. In August, about 500 New Zealand troops took part in Exercise Swift Eagle in Queensland. The 2nd 1st Infantry Regiment from Burnham packed up their gear to go, guns, tents, food, ammunition, but they also added one other item, some beer. And we're not talking just 1 or 2 cans or 1 or 2 dozen, we're talking 1,000 dozen cans of beer. And when they got it across to Australia, they sold off some to some thirsty Australian soldiers. Well, the Army finds itself a little embarrassed and has launched an inquiry. So was it simply private enterprise, or was it a battalion on the booze? This from Chris Wright.
It's hot in the Australian outback, extremely hot. Enough to get any man's thirst up. So in August, when New Zealand soldiers from Burnham headed off across the Tasman to join Exercise Swift Eagle, they took their own coolant. 1,000 dozen cans of beer to an exercise that was supposed to be dry. 1,000 dozen beer is a lot of liquid ammunition, no matter which way you put it. There's 12,000 cans. It's 2 dozen cans for every man. It's a third of a container load. It's 1, 2, 3, and 1 more pallets. The exercise was held in Cape York in the northeast of Queensland. While soldiers flew across to Townsville to join Swift Eagle, their beer journeyed by ship. Once it arrived, it was moved to the exercise base by truck. So the Kiwis ended up on the outback with enough cheap beer to drown any imaginary foe. And the Kiwis were onto a good thing. The exercise was supposed to be dry, and so it may have been. But once the shooting was over, the Kiwis were left as the ones who could break the drought with draft. In an outback with no beer, they had one of the only pubs around, selling their good fortune for 40 cents a can to anyone who was thirsty.
I don't condone it, but it seems to me to be funny in a way that when they couldn't take the motorcycles which were to be sold, they got an exclusive deal from a brewery, all this beer at such a small price. Entrepreneurial activity. At Oaxaca it was a case of head should roll. I think in this particular case, on this dry exercise that obviously turned into wet exercise, it was eyes were rolling.
In this case, thirsty Aussie soldiers. The Kiwis may or may not have won the mock battles, but they were victorious in the battle for the beer. Back home, the top brass is smarting. It's claimed the beer was paid for by the soldiers themselves through the regiment's fund. The $500 profit from sales going back into the fund.
You don't think that this would give the impression that the New Zealand Army is made up of drunks?
No, not at all. No, I think that they probably had to go for the 1,000 dozen on the basis of the bigger discount at the higher level on the bulk purchase. So it might all go well for our administration in the future that buying big gives big benefits and possibly big hangovers.
After the Oaxaca Air Base house debacle, the inquiry into spending at Linton Camp and the hush-up of a human rights complaint at Shelley Bay Air Force Base, there's now an investigation into Beergate.
Well, I guess I can't blame Kiwi soldiers not wanting to drink Aussie beer, but 12,000 cans of beer does seem a heck of a lot. There is a committee of inquiry being held, I understand, and that will look at things like cost. It'll look at the manner in which the alcohol was consumed, whether that was responsibly or not. And I think we should probably withhold our judgment until we get the outcome of that inquiry.
The highest ranks of the military at Burnham and Land Force headquarters are refusing to be interviewed about the mammoth booze shipment. But they've confirmed they're angry about the scheme to turn the desert brown.
Drink, 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 blue eyes that are bright as stars when they're shining on me.
What's concerning the brass is the amazing number of tinnies that cross the Tasman.
Drink.
They're questioning how a shipment this size could ever have been authorised, especially to an exercise the Australian Army had ordered remain dry.
Well, why should we do what they tell us? Anyway, Defence Minister Warren Cooper had a further bit of advice, no doubt tongue-in-cheek today for the Burnham beer barons. He says, because they had cornered the market, they should have charged $1.50 a can, say, not just 40 cents. I suppose if I might add, they could have charged 6 cans for $7.50. Buy 5, get 1 free. Anyway, next, the 10-year-old guitarist who plays backstage with Buddy Holly in a couple of minutes.